Yes, welcome once again to another new video. This is Santosh Sahu and you are watching Sahu's tutorial. And in this tutorial video, I'll be covering some important MCQ question on English literature for the upcoming CUET PG English literature mock test. So this is the part 15. In the previous 14 videos, I have discussed 550 important MCQ questions along with explanation. Please watch this video also and visit the playlist that is CUET PG English literature mock test, and you will get all the videos that I have uploaded recently in that playlist. So I think everything is okay and I am audible and visible to all of you. Please do let me know if everything is okay. So without wasting your precious time, let's get started with question number 551. But before starting the session, this is my humble request to all of you. Please do subscribe the channel and tap the bell icon to get more notification that I will upload in future. So here is your first question. Please do hurry up. If you have not joined yet, you can watch this session later. So here is your first question on your screen. And the question number 551 begins with, who is often credited with the with introducing the concept of the death of the author. So who is often credited with introducing the concept of death of the author? And your options are Sigmund Freud, Michel Foucault, Roland Barthes, Jacques Derrida. So the concept of death of the author was given by Roland Barthes. Roland Barthes has given the concept of death of the author, and Roland Barthes is a structuralist as well as a post-structuralist. So Roland Barthes belongs to structuralist as well as post-structuralist, and Sigmund Freud is a psychoanalyst. Sigmund Freud has given the concept of psychoanalysis, whereas Michel Foucault is a post-structuralist and Jacques Derrida is a deconstructionist. So I told that Sigmund Freud has given the concept of psychoanalysis and he is a psychoanalyst. Michel Foucault belongs to post-structuralist, whereas Roland Barthes is a structuralist as well as post-structuralist, and Jacques Derrida is a deconstructionist. So the death of the author, the concept was given by whom? It was given by Roland Barthes. Moving on to question number 552, and the question is that which literary critic introduced the concept of anxiety of influence? Which literary critic introduced the concept of the anxiety of influence? Now your options are Roland Barthes, Jacques Derrida, Harold Bloom, Michel Foucault. So here the concept of anxiety of influence was given by Harold Bloom. Harold Bloom has given the concept of anxiety of influence. Moving on to question number 553. What term is used to describe the critical approach that focuses on the social, political and economical aspects of literature? So the social, political and economic aspects of literature is focused by, your options are formalism, structuralism, Marxism, psychoanalysis. So it is Marxism. Marxism focuses on the social, political and economic aspects of literature. C is the right option over here. Next question. Who wrote the influential essay? Who wrote the influential essay called Tradition and the Individual Talent? Tradition and the Individual Talent was written by whom? Virginia Woolf, W.H. Auden, Ezra Pound, T.S. Eliot. So the influential essay Tradition and Individual Talent was written by Thomas Stern Eliot. T.S. Eliot has written this influential essay called Tradition and the Individual Talent. Next question. Which critic is associated with the concept of the sublime in literary criticism? Which critic is associated with the concept of the sublime in literary criticism? Okay. Now your options are Edmund Burke, Friedrich Schiller, Immanuel Kant, Theodor Adorno. So here the right option is Edmund Burke. Edmund Burke is associated with the concept of the sublime. So A is the right option over here. Moving on to next question 556. Who wrote the short story The Gift of the Magi? The Gift of the Magi was written by William Wordsworth, Robert Frost, Jane Austen, O. Henry. So the gift of the Magi, this short story was written by the American short story writer O. Henry. O. Henry has written the gift of the Magi. Next question. Who is the writer of Men and Women? Men and Women actually a collection of poems, a volume. It contains 51 poems and it was published in 1855. Yeah, it was published in 1855 and it contains 51 poems. So who is the writer of Men and Women? Now your options are Robert Browning, Shelley, William Shakespeare, Wordsworth. So it was Robert Browning who wrote the collection of poetry, each men and women. So Robert Browning is the right option, and here is the explanation. Men and Women is a collection of 51 poems in 2 volumes published by Robert Browning, and it was published in the year 1855. Next question. Which work of Spenser celebrated his marriage with Elizabeth Boyle? So in which work we can find that Edmund Spenser has celebrated his marriage with Elizabeth Boyle. Now your options are Othelamian, Shepherd's Calendar, Epithalamian, Fairy Queen. So here the right option is Epithalamian. In Epithalamian, Spenser has celebrated his marriage with Elizabeth Boyle. Next question. Who is the author of The Affluent Society? Who has written the book The Affluent Society? Now your options are A.G. Wells, T.S. Eliot, J.K. Galbraith, David Hume. So J.K. Galbraith has written the book The Affluent Society. C is right option over here. Moving on to question number 560. As it's called the first romantic critic. So who is called the first romantic critic? So it was Wordsworth, Longinus, Horace, Sidney. So Longinus is called the first romantic critic. And who has said this? It was Scott James. It was Scott James who has said that Longinus is the first romantic critic. So Scott James has said Longinus as the first romantic critic. And here is the explanation that Longinus as the first romantic critic. Scott James calls Longinus the first romantic critic because of his insistence on passion, ecstasy, transport, imagination, intensity, and exaltation. They are the romantic traits, the romantic characteristics bred by Longinus in the aesthetic criticism of the classical age. So, who is known as the first romantic critic? It is Longinus, and who has told this, who has given this name? It was Scott James. Next question. Northanger Abbey, Emma, and Sense and Sensibility. These are all novels by the writer George Eliot, Miss Burney, Jane Austen, none. So Jane Austen has written Northanger Abbey, Emma, Sense and Sensibility, and Jane Austen is a novelist of Regency period. Jane Austen is a novelist of Regency period. Next question. The Bangle Seller. The Bangle Seller is written by David Roth, Arunima Seth, Sarojini Naidu, none of them. So the Bangle Seller is written by Sarojini Naidu. Sarojini Naidu has written the Bangle Seller. Bangle Seller written by Sarojini Naidu. Moving on to question number 563. Rabi Ben Ezra. Rabi Ben Ezra is written by Kyle Geoffrey Chaucer, Robert Browning, none of them. So it was Robert Browning who has written Rabi Ben Ezra. Rabi Ben is written by Robert Browning. Next question. In Don Juan is a satire. Is Byron used blackbird snow, Ottawa rima, refrain, Tarzan. So in Don Juan, that was written by Byron. Byron has used Ottawa rima in Don Juan, and Ottawa rima has 8 lines. 8 lines, and the rhyming scheme of Ottawa rima is AB, and AB, CC. So the Ottawa rima's rhyme scheme is AB, CC. And in Don Juan, Byron has used Ottawa rima. And here This next question, 565. She looked over his shoulder for vines and olive trees, marble, well-governed cities, and ships upon untamed seas. So these lines are the starting of. So these are the opening lines of which work? Lullaby. It's a lullaby. The shield of Achilles, the wasteland, selling to Byzantium. So these are the opening lines of the poem The Shield of Achilles by Auden, by W.H. Auden. W.H. Auden's poem, that is Shield of Achilles, begins with these famous opening lines that she looked over his shoulder for vines and olive trees, marble well-governed cities, and ships upon untamed siege. Moving on to question number 5, 6, and here is the explanation that the Shield of Achilles, written by W.H. Auden, and this is the first stanza of the poem, that she looked over his shoulder for vines and olive trees, marble well-governed cities, and ships upon untamed siege. Next question. Who wrote Animal Farm? George Orwell, Raja Ram, R.K. Narayan, and John Keats. So it was George Orwell who has written Animal Farm. Very easy. Next question. Please do like the session and do share with your friends. So that is question number 5, 6, 7, and do not forget to subscribe the channel. So here question number 567. The selfish giant is very easy question. Oscar Wilde, Bacon, and then none of these. So the selfish giant is a story written by Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde has written the selfish giant. Next question. What was the first novel of Virginia Woolf? What was the first novel of Virginia Woolf? The Waves? No. The Lighthouse? No. Jacob's Room? No. So Virginia Woolf's first novel is The Voyage Out. The Voyage Out is the first novel written by Virginia. Moving on to question number 569. In Ozymandias. Ozymandias is a poem written by whom? Ozymandias is actually written by P.B. Shelley. P.B. Shelley has written Ozymandias. And P.B. Shelley is known as a rebel poet. So here the Ozymandias poets, in Ozymandias the poet says, I met a traveler dash and dash land. So I met a by old land going ancient from antique passing antique. So actually I met a traveler from an antique land. So here C is the right option. C is the right option. In Ozymandias, the poet says that I met a traveler from an antique land. And Ozymandias was written by P.B. Shelley, and P.B. Shelley is known as the rebel poet. So who is known the rebel poet? Here P.B. Shelley is known as rebel poet. Okay. Next question. And here is the explanation that the poem Ozymandias begins with I met a traveler from an antique land. So this is the opening line of the poem Ozymandias, written by Percy Bysshe Shelley or P.B. Shelley. Okay. Moving on to question number 570. The Duchess of Malfi is written by William Congreve, John Wycherley, Ben Jonson, John Webster. John Webster has written the Duchess of Malfi. The Duchess of Malfi is written by John Webster. Next question. Who is the author of The Taming of the Shrew? The Taming of the Shrew is written by G.B. Shaw, William Shakespeare, Henry Gibson, or Ben Jonson. So it was William Shakespeare who has written the play The Taming of the Shrew. So it was William Shakespeare. Next question. Who is the author of the book Zest for Life? Zest for Life. Gustave Flaubert, Leo Tolstoy, Voltaire, Emile Zola. So Emile Zola has written the book called Zest for Life. Moving on to question number 573. After Cromwell, that is Oliver Cromwell's death, Parliament invites Charles II. So again Charles II was invited after the death of Cromwell back to take the English throne. So this is known as the Glorious Revolution, the English Civil War, the English Restoration, or the Usurpation. So it is known as the Restoration. The Restoration took place in 1660. The Restoration took place in 1660. So this is the restoration of monarchy in 1660. So the monarchy was restored. So it is the English Restoration. The Restoration period, who is the main writer? Here the main writer of Restoration period is John Dryden. John Dryden is the main writer of Restoration period. And on the other hand, there is also William Congreve has also written many plays in the Restoration period. So And here is the explanation. The restoration of the monarchy in England happened in 1660. It marked the return of Charles II as king. That's from 1660 to 1685, following the period of Oliver Cromwell's Commonwealth. So after the Commonwealth period, then came the restoration in 1660, and Charles II was restored. The monarchy was restored. That's why it's a restoration period. And John Dryden is the prominent writer of the restoration period. On the other hand, also William Congreve is another famous writer of the restoration period. Okay. Next question: Hymn to Adversity. Hymn to Adversity is a poem by Thomas Gray, Alexander Pope, Edward Gibbon, William Blake. So it was Hymn to Adversity is a poem written by Thomas Gray. Thomas Gray has written Hymn to Adversity, and another works, some other works by that is Thomas Gray is Hymn, is Ode on Spring and Ode on a Distant Prospect of Eton College. So the poem that is Hymn to Adversity was written in 1742, like Ode on Spring and Ode on a Distant Prospect of Eton College belongs to the first period of Gray's poetic career. So these three poems, that is Hymn to Adversity, Ode on Spring, and Ode on a Distant Prospect of Eton College, these are all belong to the first period of Gray's poetic career. Moving on to question number 575. Who wrote the famous novel called The Three Musketeers? The Three Musketeers was written by R.L. Stevenson, that is Robert Louis Stevenson, William Shakespeare, Sir Walter Scott, Alexander Dumas. So it was Alexander Dumas who has written Three Musketeers. Moving on to question number 576. The author of the book Asian Drama, An Inquiry into the Poverty of Nations, that was published in 1968. The author of the book Asian Drama, An Inquiry into the Poverty of Nations. This book was written by Shakespeare, Gunnar Myrdal, Humayun Kabir, or Barton Russell. So it was written by Gunnar Myrdal. Gunnar Myrdal has written the book called Asian Drama, An Inquiry into the Poverty of Nations. Moving on to question number 577. Midnight Children. This is the famous novel written by Arundhati Roy, Anita Desai, that is Anita Desai, R.K. Narayan, that is Salman Rushdie. So it was Salman Rushdie has written Midnight Children. Next question: Who is the author of the book Long Walk to Freedom? Long Walk to Freedom. The book Long Walk to Freedom was written by Jawaharlal Nehru, Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, or Mario Puzo. It was actually written by Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela's autobiography is known as Long Walk to Freedom. So it is B is the right option. Nelson Mandela's autobiography is known as Long Walk to Freedom. Next question: The 18th century work, that is Tom Jones. The 18th century work Tom Jones was written by whom? So Tom Jones is actually a novel, and this novel was written by Samuel Johnson, Henry Fielding, John Donne, Tobias Smollett. So it was written by Henry Fielding. Henry Fielding's picaresque novel. So Tom Jones is a picaresque novel. He is a rogue. He is a rogue hero. So Tom Jones was written by Henry Fielding. Moving on to question number 580. Who wrote Aurora Leigh? Aurora Leigh is written by Matthew Arnold, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Alfred Lord Tennyson, Robert Browning. So it was written by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Elizabeth Barrett Browning has written Aurora Leigh, and this is actually a verse novel or epic novel. This is an epic novel or verse novel. This is an epic novel or verse novel. So Aurora Leigh, written by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and here is the explanation that Aurora Leigh, published in 1856, is an epic poem or novel by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and this was written in blank verse, and it encompasses 9 books, the women's number and the number of the blank books. It is a first person narration from point of view of Aurora. Its other heroine is Marian Early. So Aurora is the main titular character, and its other heroine is Marian Early, is an abused, self-taught child of itinerant parents, and the poem is set in Florence, Melbourne, London, and Paris. By the way, Aurora Leigh is written by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and it is a first novel or epic novel, and this novel was written in blank verse. These are things that you need to remember. Okay. Moving on to question number 581. Who represents Pride in Jane Austen's novel Pride and Prejudice? Pride and Prejudice who represent pride? So was it Mr. Bennett? Wrong. Mr. Bingley, Miss Elizabeth, none of these. So here actually Darcy. Darcy represents pride. None of these is the right answer. Darcy represents is Darcy who represents pride, whereas prejudice is represented by uh, Miss Elizabeth. Miss Elizabeth represents prejudice. Okay. And do you know that Pride and Prejudice first title is First Impression? So what was the first title of Pride and Prejudice? First Impression is the first title of Pride and Prejudice. Moving on to question number 582. The Lighthouse, Room of One's Own. The Lighthouse, A Room of One's Own. These are all novels written by Virginia Woolf, Charlotte Bronte, James Hinch, none of the above. So it is Virginia Woolf has written the novels like The Lighthouse, A Room of One's Own. Moving on to question number 583. Who is the writer of the poem The Pied Piper of Hamelin? The Pied Piper of Hamelin was written by Robert Browning, Henry Gibson, Ben Jonson, G.B. Shaw. So who is the writer of the poem The Pied Piper of Hamelin? It was Robert Browning. Robert Browning has written the poem called The Pied Piper of Hamelin. Moving on to next question. The only play by Shakespeare which conforms to the classical unities. The only play by Shakespeare which conforms to the classical unities, that is unity of time, place and action. Three unities, that is unity of time, place and action. So these three were followed in which play of Shakespeare? It is, now your options are Hamlet, Twelfth Night, Romeo and Juliet, Tempest. So it is the Tempest. In Tempest, Shakespeare has followed the classical three unities that are unity of time, unity of place, unity of action. And you know that Tempest is the swan song of Shakespeare. And what is a swan song? This is the last work of any author. Last work of any author is known as swan song. So Tempest is the last work of Shakespeare. That is why Tempest is the swan song of Shakespeare. Moving on to question number 585. Which play by Marlowe portrays the conflict between the French Catholics and the Protestants? So which play by Marlowe portrays the conflict between the French Catholics and the Protestants? Now your options are The Massacre at Paris, Dido, Queen of Carthage, Tamburlaine and the Great, Edward II. So which play by Marlowe? It is The Massacre at Paris. The Massacre at Paris is known as it portrays the conflict between the French and Catholics and the Protestants. So here A is the right option. Moving on to question number 586. Which of the following poet said, "My name is read in water"? My name is read in water. Keats, Byron, Shelley, Wordsworth. So this was actually spoken by John Keats. It was written on his gravestone. So Keats is the right option over here. Next question. Byron wrote Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. Byron has written Childe Harold's Pilgrimage in 1808, 1812 to 1818, 1818. So actually it was written in 1812 and it was published between 1812 to 1818. And it was written in 18, but it was written in 1812. 1812 is the right option, but it was published in between 1812 to 1818. So Childe Harold's Pilgrimage is a famous one by Byron. Moving on, here is the explanation. The Childe Harold's Pilgrimage is a long narrative poem by Byron. The poem was published between 1812 to 1818 and it was dedicated to Lanthe. So Childe Harold's Pilgrimage was dedicated to Lanthe and it describes the travels and the reflections of one very young man who is disillusioned with a life of pleasure and revelry and looks for distraction in foreign lands. Okay. Moving on to next question. 10,000 saw I at a glance. 10,000 saw I at a glance. So these lines are actually from daffodils. 10,000 saw I at a glance. This line is actually from daffodils. So this is an example of conceit, hyperbole, simile, metaphor. So 10,000 saw I at a glance. This is actually an example of hyperbole. It's the exaggeration. 10,000 saw I at a glance. So it is an exaggeration. This is the hyperbole. Hyperbole is the right option. Next question. The Pilgrim's Progress is written by William Shakespeare, John Bunyan, John Dryden, John Locke. So the pilgrim progress is allegorical, right? This is the allegorical word, and John Bunyan has written the Pilgrim's Progress. So B is the right answer. Moving on to question number 590, which rhetorical device involves a comparison between two unrelated things. A comparison, there is a comparison between two unrelated things using the words like or as. It's simile, metaphor, allusion, personification. So it is very easy. Everybody knows it is simile. And here is an example. Her eyes sparkled like diamonds. So eyes are compared to diamonds. So two unrelated things are compared using the words like. So this is a simile. Simile is the right option. Her eyes sparkled like diamonds. Okay. Moving on to question number 591. What is the rhetorical term for a brief and memorable statement? For a brief and memorable statement that expresses a general truth. Sorry. That expresses a general truth or moral principle. So the term that is giving or expressing a general truth or a moral principle. Is it anecdote? No. It is euphemism? No. Aphorism? Onomatopoeia. So it is aphorism. In aphorism, there is the expression of general truth or moral principle. And Francis Bacon has written many aphorisms. Francis Bacon is famous for his aphorism style of writing. Francis Bacon. So here, you can watch it here. I have given an example here that actions speak louder than words. Action speaks louder than words. बात से काम नहीं चलेगा, काम से बात चलेगा. So it is action speaks louder than words. So this is actually aphorism and it is expressing a general truth or moral principle. Next question. What is the term for a deliberate and exaggerated overstatement? What is the term for a deliberate and exaggerated? So deliberately the poet uses and it is an exaggeration, overstatement or exaggeration of, and the exaggeration was given for emphasis. The exaggeration is given for emphasis by the poet. So what is the term? Irony, paradox, hyperbole, metonymy. So it is hyperbole. In hyperbole, there is the deliberate and exaggerated overstatement or exaggeration for emphasis. And here are some examples that this suitcase weighed a ton. This suitcase weighed a ton. I have told you a million times. So this is the hyperbole, the exaggerations. It was given for emphasis. Next question. Okay. What is the term for the repetition of a word? What is the term for the repetition of a word or a phrase at the beginning of a successive clause or sentence? What is the term? Term for the repetition of a word. So a word is repeated or a phrase is repeated at the beginning of a sentence, successive clause or sentence. What is antithesis? No. Anaphora, epiphora, chiasmus. So it is anaphora. Like I have a dream. This just like imagine that the poem begins with I have a dream and the second line also begins with I have a dream. So they are same phrase, same line. So here this is why it is anaphora. Anaphora is a repetition of a word or a phrase at the beginning of successive clause or successive sentence. So this is anaphora. B is the right answer. Next question. Which of the following is a rhetorical device? Which of the following is a rhetorical device that is used to emphasize a point through the repetition of initial sounds or consonants? Repetition of consonants in the successive words. Repetition of consonants in the successive words. So it is simile, no. Alliteration, metaphor, hyperbole. So it is alliteration. In alliteration, there is the repetition of the same consonant. That's repetition of consonant in the same in the successive words. Just like Peter Piper picked a peg. So picked a peg of pickled peppers. So every word begins with the same consonant, that is P. That's why it is an alliteration. Next question. Which of the following is an example of onomatopoeia? Onomatopoeia. Now your options: the bees buzzed around the garden, the cat's fur was as soft as silk. No. The red rose symbolized love. No. The mountains stood tall and majestic. So it is the bees buzzed. This is the buzzing sound. The sound. So the bees buzzed around the garden is an onomatopoeia. This is an example of onomatopoeia. So buzzing sound. hissing sound, their onomatopoeia. Which old English heroic poem tells the story of a hero who battles against a monster named Grindel? So, who battles against a monster named Grindel. Beowulf, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, the Canterbury Tales, the Song of Roland. So, it is Beowulf. Beowulf is an old English epic poem that was written in alliterative verse. So, Grindel is where Grindel, the hero, Beowulf is fighting against the monster named Grindel. Okay. And later with his mother also. Grindel's mother. Here also fought with Grindel's mother. Okay. Moving on to question number 597. Which play by Marlowe features a protagonist who sells his soul in exchange for power and knowledge? So there is the protagonist, the titular protagonist who is going to exchange his soul for power and knowledge to Mephistopheles. Now your options are Dr. Foster's Tamburlaine the Great. You know the Tamburlaine the Great has two parts, part 1 and part 2. Another work is Jew of Malta and Edward II. So it is Dr. Foster. Dr. Foster has already decided that he is going to sell his soul in exchange for power and knowledge to Mephistopheles. So A is the right option. And this was written by Christopher Marlowe, one of the university wits. Okay. Next question. In Marlowe's play Edward II, so Edward II is a play written by Christopher Marlowe, who is King's favorite male companion. So in this work, we will find that there is the homosexual relationship between Edward II and the character that will be the answer. So there is the homosexual relationship between the titular character Edward II. So who is King's favorite male companion? And with that male companion, Edward II has the homosexual relationship. And your options are Pierce Gaveston, Mortimer, Queen Isabella, Lancaster. So is the Gaveston. With Gaveston, Edward II has the homosexual relationship and he is the King's favorite male companion. Moving on to question number 599. Which character is the Machiavellian antagonist in Marlowe's play The Jew of Malta? The Jew of Malta is another famous play written by Christopher Marlowe. And who is the antagonist? Was it Barabbas, Abigail, Farnese, Itham? So it was the Barabbas. Barabbas is the antagonist in Marlowe's play The Jew of Malta. And to wind up the session, here is the last question today. Last question of today is here. Question number 600. Which play by Marlowe features a protagonist who sells his soul in exchange for power and knowledge? It is Dr. Foster. The question is repeated. Dr. Foster is the right option. So these were all 50 questions that I have discussed in this video. I hope that you have liked the video. Please do not forget to subscribe the channel and tap the bell icon to get more notification that I will upload in future. Stay tuned and be benefited by those 3 videos. Please visit the playlist, that is CUET PG English mock test. In that playlist, you will get all the videos that I have uploaded recently. Stay tuned. Do not forget to subscribe the channel. And thank you once again for watching the video. And do not forget to share with your friends. And have a good night. Thank you.